Welcome back to County Connection. For our final segment of the February episode, we have the fine folks from Summit County Open Space and Trails here to join us. Brian Lorch, Director of the Department. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to have you. And Resource Specialist Catherine King. Welcome, Catherine.
Thanks, Julie.
All right, so for folks who may not be familiar with the county's Open Space and Trails program, why don't you give us a little bit of background on the history and mission of the program?
Sure. The program started, we're now 20 years old, so we've been approved we're tax funded as a property tax from the residents of Summit County, and we've gone to the voters 4 times and very strongly been supported all 4 times. In that time, we've managed to protect over 15,000 acres of land. So, been very successful with the help of the voters. We also manage the rec path system in Summit County. So there's about 35 miles of rec path that the county manages, and then the towns manage the rec paths as they go through the towns.
Okay.
And then we also have about 30 miles of soft surface trails that we manage. A lot of those are trailheads that start on our properties and then go into the forest from there. We permit special events. We've got about 50 of those a year, either on the rec path or on some of those trails.
And those are a lot of kind of charity rides and things like that.
Yeah, things like that, yeah. And then we have about 100 trailheads that we've secured over time. So that's really, I think, key to sort of the quality of life in Summit County.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of places, a lot of counties in Colorado, you can see the forest, but it may be behind private properties, and so there may only be a couple of trailheads. But because we have all these trailheads in Summit County, it's really, I think, how people like to live and recreate in Summit County.
Right. Yeah, those trails are just the window into so much of that beautiful backcountry out there, and really so much a part of what makes the lifestyle so special here.
Yeah, so we're lucky that way, I think.
Yeah, cool. So, so you mentioned 15,000 acres of open space that the program has acquired over its history. So, how do you go about deciding which parcels to pursue?
I would say that overall we have some long-term open space acquisition goals, but primarily we work in a really opportunistic kind of way. Always with willing sellers, people looking to protect their property as open space. We do have an 11-member citizen advisory council that provides input on what they think our priorities should be and properties that are important for protection. And they also help us come up with a fair market value for those properties. And generally we protect all kinds of land, everything from really small mining claims in the backcountry in the middle of nowhere to much larger parcels. Like in the lower blue, we've protected a lot of large ranch land parcels, hundreds or even thousands of acres. And we do generally have a set of 7 criteria that we use to evaluate open space property. And we're looking for things like, does the property provide access to the national forest, like Brian mentioned? Does it help us provide additional recreation opportunities? Does it protect our beautiful scenic viewshed and our backcountry? It might protect wildlife habitat or wetlands, high quality wetlands, agricultural lands, historic features. I don't know if I've missed any, but really we adhere to this 7 criteria as much as possible to kind of narrow down what we might want to prioritize for protection.
Right. Yeah. And a given property may have one
More
or
than
2
one.
or 3 or 4 of those
Absolutely.
characteristics that kind of vault that into the public interest for a long-term protection.
Right. And then I would also mention that we do a lot of work in partnership with the towns. So we have a great long-standing collaboration with the town of Breckenridge, especially. We've bought a lot of land with them in the Upper Blue. And we also work with the Forest Service at times to convey, say, parcels that are really surrounded by national forest land, to convey those lands to the Forest Service so they could be better managed by them.
Right, and that's kind of where our Summit County's mining history really comes into play as a factor in land management, where you have thousands of acres of federal Forest Service land, and then a really little piece of private land. So talk a little bit about kind of why it can be advantageous to bring those types of parcels into the program.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. That was Summit County's mining history, was this fragmented landscape of mining claims from 5 acres to hundreds of acres in the placer mining claims. And one of the main goals of our program was, has always been to not see every one of those parcels have a house on it. So if those were all to be developed, you would see a road or a trail or lights and people all over our beautiful backcountry, and also possibly blocking access to places where the public wants to go and recreate. So that's been a really important part of our program over time. Yeah.
All right. So you just wrapped up your work of 2015. Can you give us some highlights of the program's success during the most recent fiscal year?
Sure. So great year, 2015. I'd say overall it was a little bit quieter maybe than some of our other recent years for acquisitions, but we still had about 15 transactions. And we protected about 90 acres of land at a cost of about $400,000 to the Open Space Fund. And primarily, I guess I should mention that oftentimes we protect or we acquire 2 or even 3 times as many properties as we did in 2015. But oftentimes it's the smallest parcels that can be the most important as far as being strategic and protecting access and really critical in holdings. So in 2015, we focused a lot on water quality protection and wetland conservation, as well as public access. So particularly public access to trails and other public lands. As you guys have been talking about, 80% of the county's Forest Service land, and it's always been a main goal of our program to make sure that our residents and guests can get out to those places. And then we also had a lot of great trail projects in 2015. We have an amazing volunteer program. We're really fortunate that so many people here in the county and from elsewhere are willing to donate their time and their efforts. So we did a great reroute of the Oro Grande Trail on the landfill property.
Okay.
And together with the town of Breckenridge, we worked on a number of trails in the Upper Blue area. Some new construction on the Wire Patch Trail, the Weber Gulch Trail, ZL, Galena Ditch, and then also assisted in some important reroutes of trails in the Upper Blue, like the Aspen Alley Trail and the Slalom Trail, which we've gotten some great positive public feedback on both of those. So
okay,
yeah,
so
we're excited about those.
All right,
Yep.
so really taking that great trail system in the Upper Blue and up to the next level even.
Right, and it's really, I should mention that along with our property acquisitions, we also acquired a number of easements so that we can expand those natural surface trail networks and our rec pass system. That's a critical part of our acquisition program as well.
Okay, and so let's see. So talk a little bit about a little more about the easements in 2015 and how that sets the stage for some future work.
I think I'll let Brian
Sure.
cover that. Yeah.
So again, that's been one of our focuses over time, is to try to find the way across people's property that they can live with and they enjoy as well. And so we acquired a couple of examples. One is a fairly complex transaction that allowed us to create the Mineral Hill Trail, which is in French Gulch. So that'll be another connection up the hill from the base of French Gulch up towards the Lincoln Park area. We'll also be working this summer on a further extension of the Galena Ditch Trail, which is along Tiger Road, kind of parallel to Tiger Road.
Okay.
And we'll eventually connect, hopefully by the end of this summer, with the help of Rocky Mountain Youth Corps this summer. We're hoping to have that connect all the way so that you can connect from the trails that are in the Breckenridge area all the way out to the end of Tiger Road on single track the whole way. So that's been a multi-year, multi-different transactions that we've had to do to get the approvals and get that in place. We're also looking at sort of the ground truthing and planning for continuation of the Wheeler Trail, which is in the Upper Blue, connecting towards Hoosier Pass. Is I guess the eventual goal is to get it up to Hoosier Pass.
Okay.
And so we protected 2 properties this year that in the Monte Cristo Gulch area that will hopefully allow us to connect the next section of that up. Again, with the hopes and someday the Wheeler Stock Trail was a trail that went up and over Hoosier Pass at one time, and they're just missing pieces in that.
And it was used for.
It was a stock drive.
Oh, okay.
Back in the history of Summit County.
And it's now a federally designated National Scenic Trail, National Recreation Trail.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And then kind of more local or urban, we're also working, we've gotten the last of 7 easements that we needed in order to improve the connection up County Road 450, which is behind the 7-Eleven in Breckenridge. And we'll be doing the planning to hopefully connect a better, more safe route along that road. So, that'll probably be paved so that people don't have to walk along the road.
Great.
And we're in the process of designing that right now.
Cool. So a pretty wide variety
Yeah.
on the trail front.
Yeah. And the 450 project has really been a goal for a long time as well, and something we've been hearing about from the public for a long time that they'd like to see safer, and I think it'd be a great project to meet a big public need, so hopefully we can move forward on that.
Great.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool how, Catherine, you mentioned really purchasing these or making the acquisitions or finding the easements and doing that in a strategic way where you're able to take those public funds and put them to use to get a small parcel that really opens up a much larger recreational experience or ensures the protection of a much larger area of public land.
Right. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
It is.
So one other voter-approved measure that kind of comes into play with the work that the Open Space and Trails Department does is what voters passed just a little over a year ago, the Safety First Fund. Some of that goes toward water quality protections and river restorations that kind of undoing the damage of our mining past. And one of the big projects on your plate is the Swan River restoration. Can you talk a little bit about that project?
Sure, yeah. We're hoping to be beginning construction on that this summer. We've raised close to $2 million in outside funding in addition to including some money from the Water Quality Fund. And we're looking at this first phase. We'll be restoring about a mile of stream channel, an area that was previously dredge mined, and then gravel operator came through and pulled out the gravel. So it's pretty much a mess up there right now. And so, yeah, it's basically they turned the whole river upside down, and the flows go subsurface for a lot of the year. So there isn't even a stream a lot of the year.
Right.
And the goal here will be putting back in fish habitat and really creating a amenity that people will enjoy fishing and going and enjoying sort of a park-like environment from what is now basically a gravel pit.
Right. Well, that is an exciting project. What's the time frame on that? And
it's pretty much going to be a 2-year project. Most of the hardscaping, the big construction work will be this summer. Next summer we'll be kind of finishing up, and I anticipate we'll be utilizing some volunteer efforts and that kind of stuff next year, not this summer as much, because it will be heavy equipment running out there. But the following year, I think we'll be utilizing volunteers to help us plant it and really make it look as good as we can.
All right. Well, it sounds like a busy year ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything that either of you would like to add about the work that the Open Space and Trails Department does? Or what you have on tap?
Again, we're continuing lots of acquisition. I think one thing we didn't mention is the large component of donations that we get or dedications. We've been able to leverage our funds with almost 3-to-1 with donations or value that owners have gotten outside, tax benefits or that kind of thing. So that's
Okay.
always been a big part of our program is people's willingness to donate and further our goals. We've got several additional trail connections that we're working on. Hopefully, we submitted a grant to the State Trails program, and so we're hoping that will help us fund some of those trail extensions and connections, quite a few in the Golden Horseshoe area outside of Breckenridge. And we'll be working with CDOT to make sure that everything works well with the rec path as they start their big project this summer of realigning Highway 9 from
Sure.
the high school to the hospital.
Yeah, a huge project there.
Yeah, so that's actually gone out to bid, so they're planning on starting that this spring, and that's a 2-year project, and so keeping the bike path usable through that 2-year project will be interesting, and at the end of the day, we will be kind of flipping the routes of those two, so the road will be close to the existing rec path alignment, and the rec path will be close to the road alignment at the
Right.
end.
I think that sounds like it's going to be such a huge benefit for the rec path.
Yeah, I think it'll be really neat. We'll have Lake Shore to
Yeah.
work with and really create a public amenity there that'll be very neat.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think in a lot of ways it's a project that is a win-win for both the highway and highway safety, and then wetland and wetland habitat along the lake, and then the rec path and the rec path experience. So
Right, definitely. I know I would consider it a personal win for myself because after I go all the way around the reservoir and back to Frisco, chugging up that last hill at Iron Springs is kind of tough sometimes.
right,
Yeah,
you're not the only one that thinks that.
The other thing on that is when this is all done, you will be able to go all the way around the reservoir on the rec path without crossing the road at all.
Right, that is a huge benefit for
Yeah.
sure, I
So
think.
staying off the highway.
Awesome.
And I guess as always, I have to put in the plug for volunteers. We have a lot of projects every year where we're asking for volunteers to help with trails or to oversee open space. We have an Adopt a Open Space program and also an Adopt a Rec Path program. So we're always looking for people to help with that as well.
All right, fabulous. So, for all those eager folks who are interested in rolling up their sleeves and getting involved as a volunteer, or perhaps getting involved in the open space acquisition on the property side of things, how do they get in touch with you?
So the best way would be through our website at summitcountyco.gov. I'm still getting used to that new address. I don't know why it's been difficult. To look at the open space section of the county's website, we do have a page for the volunteer program, and we also have a page for the open space protection program. Of course, they can always feel free to give us a call or stop by our office, which is across from the library in Frisco. And
your phone number?
Love to hear from you. 970-668-4061.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming in, Brian and Catherine. Great to have you and learn about all the awesome work that you guys are doing
Thanks
in
for
the Open
having
Space
us.
and Trails program.
Thank you for having us.
All right. And thanks to those of you at home who have joined us for the February episode of County Connection. We will see you next month.